is very important to share our best practices in terms of urban design and urban infrastructure at the European level. It is a pleasure and an honor to present how we try to bring more innovation and extend the scopes of commons in Paris. I will focus on the Reinventing Paris competition. In fact, there were two starting points at the origin of Reinventing Paris. The first question was how to foster innovation in urban planning and architecture. We had previous experiences with startups in order to make experimentation. But the question of experimentation, of course, is more complicated in urban planning and architecture. And our feeling is that the world of real estate was not taking into account current revolution in the ways of living, of working, of housing. And we feel the gap between the social and the urban mutation that we observe every day, and you observe every day, and the reality of the real estate project that come out in the city. How to cover this gap and bring together the ecosystem of innovation and the one of urban planning. Our idea is that generally public contracts and even land transfers not always favoring innovation, but rather financial amounts and safety. And the question was how to extend the scope of urban commons, how to make private projects of general interest, how to give incentives to developers to create common value, new services for the area. So this is the competition we organize, one competition with 23 sites. We choose, in fact, the leverage of land transfer, changing the way of selling municipal land. Before Paris, when Paris was selling a land, it was selling to the highest bidder. And the idea of Reinventing Paris was very simple, not selling to the highest bidder, but selling to the most innovative project. So we created 9 innovative challenges. Innovation in users, in anticipating new modes of living, in co-construction, in valorizing our patrimony, in offering new services, in creating resilience, in contributing to the attractiveness of Paris, in building faster and better, and in inventing new financial models. And this innovation has to be part inside the rules of the local urban plan, no derogations. And the competition for complete projects has to be with multidisciplinary teams, integration of final users, architectural and economic projects, artists, startups. And the freedom, the complete freedom, was given to the teams. No imposed program, no imposed innovation. Our idea is how to open the game of urban planning. So the success has been immediate. We received 815 expressions of interest, 372 complete projects have been submitted. It was showing a very strong appetite for innovation in the real estate and architecture sector. And at the beginning of this competition, there was some skepticism of some developers, but because these developers did not know how to work through open innovation processes. The diversity of participants was very impressive because we had 15 different nationalities. Applications came from all over the world, and more than 30 different kinds of professionals mobilized, a very large panel of professions involved, artists, sociologists, farmers, childcare center operators, restaurant chefs, etc. And we organized meetups to make those different ecosystems come together, mainly the ecosystem of innovation of Paris, the startups, and the ecosystem of developers and architects. Now I will come to some example of winning project. My first example is an old railway station called Gare Masséna, a disused railway station. We had a lot of projects on this railway station, and all these projects have failed. This is the reason why we have decided to put it in this competition. This railway station is a patrimonial one, so we have to keep the station, but it was possible to build beside the station. And the winning project have been a project called Reinventer Masséna, refeeding Masséna. The architect is a young Lebanese architect, Lina Gotmeh, and the developer is Airtel. And the project is all about the entire food circuit, from production to consumption in the same building. The motto in French is de la fourche à la fourchette. We had in this project laboratories of research, institute about food, market, restaurants, urban agriculture, apartments for chefs, spaces for food lessons. And the building will be entirely made in wood, either the structure or the facade. And it will bring a lot of animation in a newly urbanized area that lacks shops and life. Another example, maybe the most, this is another view of Reinventer Masséna. Another example, and this is very interesting because it's about infrastructure. Here you see what the peripheric, the ring road, is separating. This is the frontier between Paris on the left and Neuilly, the city of Neuilly on the right. And we have decided in this competition to see if the space over the ring road is available to create a bridge building linking Paris and Neuilly, linking the two cities. And it was a daring bet, a very daring bet, because we did not know, of course, the value of this land. How much does it cost and how much is it difficult to build a bridge building? The winning project is this one, 1,000 Trees. 1,000 Trees is a concept by a Japanese and a French architect. The Japanese is very well known, Su Fujimoto, and the French is a young architect. The company is named Oxo, and the developer is Compagnie de Fasbourg. Very diverse team, as you can see on the right side of the slide. Designers, the designer is Philippe Stark. Hotels, ecological organization. And what is interesting is that in this project you have two forests. This is why the name is 1,000 Trees. Two forests, one, a public one on the bottom of the building, and a private one with a village on the top of the building. So this is another slide, and you see the little village here on the top of the building. Also hotels, shops, childcare centers. A very ambitious project, a technical challenge. It paves the way to new types of building over the ring road and to the possibility of inhabiting there. So my third example will be very different, an old prefecture in the heart of the Le Marais, in the fourth quarter of Paris. It was an administrative building, an old prefecture, a public building with a beautiful view, but not at all open to the Parisian people. The challenge here was of revealing this building without transforming it too much. And the winning project magnifies this patrimony. The architect is very well known too, David Chipperfield. The developer is Emerge, and as you can see on the top of the building, this is an installation by the artist Olafur Eliasson, opening the building to the sky and making the difference between the building and the sky difficult to see for the people outside of a building. It's a mixed 50,000 square meter project with social and private housing. Empty land in a newly urbanized area. The program had to be mainly housing, and the winning project is in vivo, technological innovation for living buildings. The architect is X2 and Marion, the developer. There is 3 buildings, as you can see on this slide. One called Plant House, the other Tree House, and the third one, more interesting, Alga Building. And as you can see on the slide, the facade of the Alga Building is made of microalga that helps cooling the building and that can be cultivated for cosmetic and other industrial use. And the architectural firm, X2, has been working for numerous years on this alga technology and have a patent on this new technology. And as you can see, the algas are luminescent during the night. So my last example will be the Stream Building, an empty land in Clichy-Batignon, an empty land on a railway wasteland. Here, the program could not be housing regarding to its location, as you can see. And the winning project is a mixed program of office and hotels, Stream Building by Philippe Chiambaretta and Heinz. And this project is the outcome of long-term theoretical works led by Philippe Chiambaretta with this scientific review, Stream, on ecological buildings and new modes of working. This is a very new generation of office buildings, mutable. Its design allows to transform it into a housing building, open 24 hours a day, hotel for young workers, and all the space of the building are co-working spaces. This building is also with a wooden structure and with agricultural activity on the top. So you can see another side of this building. Some overall figures of this competition. First of all, the high number of social housing we have been able to create in this project, high amount of green areas. One of the major trends of the competition, the newspaper Le Monde have titled its paper 22 Shades of Green. And at the same time, those projects distinguish themselves by the commons they create, and it generates important revenue for the city of Paris. But we met our commitment of making this competition on innovation and not on money. When things are well organized, private projects can be of very high general interest when the competition is created in this goal. Other overall trends of this competition, the first one is that the buildings of Reinventing Paris have been sought with the final users. And it's what we can call a user-oriented architecture. It's impossible today, I think, to think a building without the final users. And they have to be part of the team, not only people we ask questions in order to see what they want. The second point is the fact that the teams are multidisciplinary. And it's not a way to weaken the architect. I think that it's a way that reinforces the architect, because the architect is like an orchestra leader. And he is not alone in front of the real estate developer. He is a leader of a team, and he is negotiating with this team and in name of this team with the developers. And third point, we had a move toward ecological and reusing materials. Major advances have been made in that sector thanks to Reinventing Paris. Most projects, for example, use wooden, and nine projects on 22 are entirely in wooden structure. Others use the waste of construction sites to make the building. And the fourth point, the question of the flexible and mutable building. The project have to include a possible change of use. What you can see in a city like Paris is that the office buildings are going to obsolescence very quickly. People doesn't want to go in an office building old of 15 or 20 years. So you have to think your building first flexible, but also mutable, and you can think that this building could have another life and another use in 10 years or 15 years. We had 22 laureates. The 22 laureates give an overview of the current state of the art in urban innovation. They innovate in environmental issues, in mixing uses, in materials, in processes, and in multidisciplinary teams. 22 manifesto projects, all very coherent in their innovation and very adapted to their context. No off-ground innovation. Innovation is not a cosmetic one. You have to have innovation in relationship with the context of the building. And the 22 laureates are already on their way to completion. 2 building permits have been delivered, 5 are on study, and all projects have been validated by the Council of Paris. Most of the projects will be realized before 2020. The most complex ones should be completed in 2022. And of course, we are very aware that it's a bet on the future, that some innovations will fail and some will succeed. But this is the price to pay to making innovation, even in the field of real estate and architecture. And we have created a system of checks. We have innovated also in the field of selling contracts. Special clauses are attached to the selling contract to ensure innovation for 10 years and uses of space for 15 years. And this competition has put Paris at the center of attention in terms of urban innovation and attractiveness. It highlights an urban model not focused on high-rise buildings, but rather on open innovation in existing areas. Innovation at all scales in Paris. Small projects matter as much as big projects. And following this success, we have decided to propose to 2 big cities along the river, la Seine, Rouen et Le Havre, to launch something called Reinventer la Seine, Reinventing the Seine. It's a large-scale initiative along the Seine River from Paris to the sea. And we gathered several cities to bring together sites on or along the water, because we think that the relationship to the river is one of the main subjects in the future for big cities. And we have to invent new ways of living with water, new transportation modes, new logistics, new sports, but we have also to have an in-depth reflection on resilience, because flooding is a very big problem here in Praga has in Paris. And also we have to invent new form of cooperation among cities. So we have decided to organize this competition on 33 sites from Paris to the sea. We received 174 projects, and the final jury will be held in the following weeks. By the way, I am chairing one jury on Monday. And projects will be chosen regarding their innovation toward water. A success both for Paris and the other cities. And I think that it's an important initiative also to reveal some less attractive territories. So we can see, for example, some of the sites which have been selected, beautiful and different sites. And there is a second wave of call for projects in February, focusing on bridges over the rivers and tunnels, and of course, foreign participants are very welcome. And we have decided also to do this kind of competition for the metropolis of the Greater Paris. It was the first major initiative launched by the recently created Greater Paris Authority. And call for projects in the entire Grand Paris area, as you can see on this slide. 59 sites, 5 in Paris, and some other in suburban areas and even agricultural ones. In total, they represent 230 hectares, from 800 square meters to 33 hectares for one site. We had 1,500 participants at the launching event, and we received 420 projects submitted to this competition. And here it's also interesting to see how the very well-known sites can be a foster for some sites located in very poor areas, because in a competition like that, you can make the real estate developer interested to some very poor areas, and this has been a very great victory for the Greater Paris. And last but not least, we have just launched Reinventing Paris Season 2. And this new project is called Below Paris. For those who understand French, you understand that Les Dessous de Paris est un jeu de mots. And we have the idea on this competition is that we have to change our approach to underground spaces. Indeed, it is a fact that there are less and less cars in our cities, and the role of the autonomous and intelligent car is growing. So there will be more and more spaces, road tunnels, car parks, storage tanks, and these undergrounds deserve a second life. The underground city is often covered and underused. Projects must integrate a lot of creativity in these unusual and exceptional areas: nocturnal, cultural, logistical, sportive, and recreational uses. Thus, we intend to open a new dimension for urban planning. Underground areas, of course, also have a dimension of poetry and mystery, and this dimension is very interesting to explore for architects. And the last reason we launched this competition is that with this initiative, we refuse standardization of the city, of the global cities, and we develop another urban ambition based on depth, rather than creating too many high-rise buildings. In one word, we think that the low city may be more interesting than the high city. Some example of place, the subway, what we call station phantom subway stations, in the 3rd arrondissement at Paris, station Saint-Martin. This underground space of 440 square meters is a former metro station. and the project will extend over 110 meter long and 4 meter wide. The tunnel of the Tuileries is another example. As far as we have made this place for pedestrians rather than for cars, we have to invent a new use for these tunnels. It represents a surface of 5,000 square meters. Any type of activity can be imagined there. Well, in conclusion, I want to say that Reinventing Paris has engaged long-term changes in the real estate and architecture sectors. Things will never be like before. Multidisciplinary teams have become evident, mixed-use program also, and general interest at the center. New actors have entered the game, young architects, new developers. This type of competition is becoming the standard in Paris and is diffusing in the rest of the world. It shows that how much local authorities can send strong signals and messages and modify existing monopolies and habits. And the C40, the organization representing the biggest city in the world, is now preparing a call named Reinventing Cities, inspired by Reinventing Paris. It will gather sites from cities all over the world with a common goal of having exemplary project on the environmental side. Paris will contribute, and I hope that Prague can do so. It will bring this method at a new scale and enable cities to strengthen their cooperation. Thank you very much.